these statements here. So we're trying to determine if there's a difference between the statements, the percentage of women who smoke and the percentage of smokers who are women. And at first, they don't seem too much different, but let's figure it out. So we then get to work on the second page. Now, to answer the questions on the second page to help check our work on the first page, we have to calculate totals for smokers, non-smokers, men, and women. Okay. So if you haven't already done that, let's do it now. So I'm going to whip those numbers into my spreadsheet here. Give me a second to retype them. Oops.
Hey, Barry,
yeah.
do you have an extra copy of the?
I do somewhere. Give me a sec.
Okay.
Grab that for you. Let's see. Should be right here. Here we go.
Thank you.
Everybody else got one? Okay. All right, so setting up my spreadsheet. I'll be right back to the screen. We've got smokers. We've got non. So if you're sitting down right now, start doing these calculations on your calculator, getting those subtotals. And then let's see, we have 4,572. Smoker, non-smokers is 10,284. And non is 12,736. And then 5,362. Okay. So now those things are in my spreadsheet. So I can get some subtotals here. So I'm just going to put a column called totals. And then I'm going to have you guys make a similar spreadsheet in just a little bit after we answer a few questions here. So on a spreadsheet, I would use the sum command. So the main way to get that is in the upper right corner of Google Sheets or Excel. You hit that auto sum button and then highlight the numbers you want to add up. Fill that up. Since I want to do the same thing to the right, I just fill that formula over. All right, so these are the numbers I'm getting. I'll highlight them. If you didn't already calculate these, please do. Pretty sure my spreadsheet's going to be correct. And then a cool thing about that sum formula, you can sum more than just a row or a column. So I can sum up a whole grid of stuff by just highlighting the grid of stuff. And it'll give me the total, complete total here. Like these guys and make them bold because they are totals. All right, let's just make this a little bit prettier. So here's what we got. So I'm going to take that into my notebook, and we're going to try and answer those questions. Okay, so this is our modified subtotal, so we can calculate percents. And we need to know these questions. What percent of women smoke? So with that one right here, women is the key word. That's the total group we're working with there. And then we want to look at the smokers. So what, as far as calculating the percentage, I have a numerator and denominator. I believe women is the denominator here, and then women smokers is the numerator. So women smokers is 5,362. Women is 18,098. So I want to know what that is as a percent. So where's my spreadsheet? Over here. Over there. There we go. So women smokers. So let's put women here. Smokers here. Equals this number divided by that number. Smokers. Smokers. So my spreadsheet's telling me it's about 29.6%. Anybody else get that? Guess we're awfully quiet today. Is it Monday or Wednesday? Wednesday. All right, so 29.6% is what I'm getting. So this says round to the nearest 1%. So what would that be? About 30? Did I do that right? Matt gave me a nod. Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, so again, we want the percentage of women who smoke. Percentage of women, I think that should say percentage of women smokers. Oh wait, is that the answer we're looking for? I thought it said percentage of women who smoke, but it does not. It says percentage of women smoke. So this was mistyped. So what did the author really mean? Let's see, does the next question help us figure that out? What percentage of smokers are women? Okay, that's a different one than we just did. What percent of women smoke? Oh. Yeah, no, I did it right. Yeah, what percent of women smoke? Okay, I don't know why I was having a hard time reading that. Okay. Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, what percentage of smokers are women? So here, smokers is the audience. We want to know which ones are women. So looking back at my table here, screenshot that question. Smokers is our audience here. And then we need to find the women smokers in that group. So I think the fraction we want to calculate here is smokers is my audience. And I want to know what part of them are women. So then women smokers is in the top. So let's see, smokers is my denominator. So that is 9,934 total smokers in this survey. And there are 5,362 of them are women. So same numerator, different denominator, because the way the question is worded. So let's see, spreadsheets, come down here. Let's go a little farther down. I got smokers, and I got women again. This time I'm using a slightly different set of numbers. Same numerator, but now I'm going to the smokers as the denominator. And my spreadsheet tells me that that's about 53.98 to the nearest percent. That would be about 54% of them. So about 54%. Okay, so here's the thing that's easily confused based on the question on the first page. Let's turn back to that first page again when we're supposed to make a hypothesis. So it said, is there a difference between the percentage of women who smoke and the percentage of smokers who are women? As far as percent goes, yeah, because when you switch the order of those statements, that changes the base, like what group we're talking about. Even though we're talking about the same women, right? It's the same group of women. How many? 5,000 something. It's just when we reword it, we're looking at a different base. And anytime they talk about percentages in the news, it's this kind of percentage. And you got to pay close attention to the way they worded it, right? Because it could mean one of two things, which is the denominator, which is the base group, okay? So although the number of women who smoke and the number of smokers who are women are the same, when we look at it as a percent, because we have to divide, then it changes. Okay? And generally, when you hear things in the news, they talk about percentages, not numbers for the most part. Okay? Although there was one I heard on TV the other day. Puerto Rico got hammered by that one of those hurricanes, and still half the country has no power. And they said 100,000 residents of Puerto Rico have left because of the disaster, and they can't live adequately. So I was wondering, why did they say 100,000? Why didn't they say what percent? Because usually on the news, they say percentages, not numbers of people, when it's big things like that. So I was wondering, what's the population of Puerto Rico? I didn't figure that out yet, but I'm gonna look it up today. I didn't get around to it. Anyway, okay. So we're making some progress. What's the next question? How many women would need to stop smoking for the percentage of women who smoke to drop below 20%? Ooh, that's a good one. All right. So, new page. Copy this sucker. Grab that question. Oh, too big. All right, how many women would need to stop smoking in order the percentage of women who smoke to drop below 20%? So we want the percentage of women who smoke. Is that the first question we answered or the second one? It's the first one, right? So that means as far as the fraction goes, and whenever I'm dealing with these kinds of things, I have to calculate. I usually write down in words what goes to the top, what goes to the bottom. It's a good practice. So that means women goes in the bottom as opposed to smokers, and then the top is women smokers. So we want this percentage to be less than 20%. Because right now it's what, around 30%? Was our first one. So the total number of women isn't going to change. It's the ones who smoke that need to change, right? So I'm going to put a question mark in the top. I don't know what that number is yet, but I know the total number of women is stuck at 18,098. And I want that to be less than 20%. Now just check something for me. What was the original percentage here? What's that, about 0.46 or 6.4? Did I mess that up? Spreadsheet. 6.3, yeah, so it's about 30%. What's 30% of 18,098? Anybody? 30% of 18,098. What is it? So I want 30% of the number of women. Yeah, it should be a little over 5,000, right? Yeah. So my point there is, with the 30% back here, if we take the 18,098 times the 30%, that's going to give us about that 5,362-ish. So similar idea here. Stand still. If we take the 18,000 times the 20%, that should give us the number that we're looking for there. Okay, so I can solve this as an equation. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Let's call it x over 18,098 less than 20%. Now 20%, to use it in a calculation, that should turn it as a decimal. So here I'm going to balance both sides of the equation by multiplying both sides by 18,098, because I'm undoing that division there. So I have to do that on the other side too, 18,098. So on the left side, number divided by itself is 1, so I have just an x. I multiplied by a positive number, so the inequality doesn't change. I just need to know what 20% of 18,098 is. You guys got that? I did it wrong. Okay, so what's 18,098 times 0.2? 3,600. Okay, so 3,619.6. Okay, so let's see. We want x to be smaller than 20%, which means x should be smaller than that number right there. So what I would do, instead of rounding that up, I would round it down because I want it to be under there. So, because again, this is women, I can't have 0.6 of a woman. So because of the direction of the inequality, I would say a safe answer would be, well, we want the number of women to be less than 3,618, or 19 actually. I can just drop the 0.6. So that would be a safe answer. So the number of women smokers should be less than 3,619. That's the case, then the percent will be under 20%, which is what would be a better number than 30%. That's a lot of smokers. All right, let's try another one. All right, so here we're just going to take a different set of numbers and we're going to try the same thing. So if you haven't already, try to answer 4A and B. I'm going to put it into my spreadsheet and then we'll compare notes there. So it's similar to what we did for 3A and B. All right, I'll have my numbers up in just a sec here. All right, hopefully I did this right. So I created 2 more tables. So when I do percentages, I can either do percents by gender or percents by smokers or not. So I took the numbers above and I made two other tables. One is percents by gender, one's percent by smokers. So the first question asks, what percent of women are smokers? So then I'm focusing on the women column, and I got about 34% of them. Is that what you guys got? No? I got a yes, I got a no. Okay, so we'll go over that. And then the second question asks what, let's see, where's that second question? What percent of smokers are women? So their smokers is the audience or denominator. So I want to focus on smokers for that next part. So here I'm focusing on smokers, so I'm going row-wise instead of column-wise. And I believe that's 29, 30%. Okay, so I got a couple nods there. So let's go over those, make sure we can agree. So new page, screenshot, oops, wrong screen. Here's the right screen, there it is. All right, so I need the data and those two questions. Let's do one question at a time. So for the first question, I'm asked what percent of women, okay? So just another way to think of that, I want percent of women that smoke, right? So percentage of women is the key. So women is my denominator, that's my audience here. So fraction women is in the bottom, and then women smokers is in the top. There are total women, let's see, I forgot that number, it's going to be a 9, an 8, 5, did I get that right? 1,589 for the total number of women?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the women smokers, that's the 536. And according to my spreadsheet, I believe that 536 divided by 1,589 is about 34%. I do the right calculation. Yep, that looks right to me. So just double check you get the same number there. So rounding to the nearest whole percent, I would say it's 34%. Then the correct question is reworded. So in the reworded part, I want to know percentage of smokers. So since it says percentage of smokers, smokers is now my audience. And then of the smokers, I need to figure out how many are women. So put that in as a question. So again, smokers is now my keyword. So it's my denominator because I'm having a percent of those guys. And then women smokers goes on the top. So there's still 536 women smokers. Now I just need the total number of smokers. So let's see, that's a 2, carry the 1, 9, 7, 1,792. Okay. And that division, I believe on my spreadsheet, came out to about 29.9% or 30%. Yeah. That's about 30%. So it's the same number of women. There's still 536 women smokers. It's just that when we ask the question about percentage of a group, the group changes the denominator, so that number looks like a different percentage because we have a different audience we're comparing it to. And pretty much anytime you see a percent in the news, you got to think, what's the audience again? Is the audience smokers? Is the audience women? Because that'll change what the percentage means. All right, next part. Let's take that to a new page. We're in a room there. All right, so a newspaper claimed that 40% of the male students at Northwest College smoked. Is that claim reasonable? Explain. So let me grab my spreadsheet. So that would be this part. Okay. So breaking down their statement, they're saying newspaper claimed that 40% of male students, right? So in math, percent generally means multiply. We multiply that percent. So if we take 40% would be 0.4 or 0.40 times the total number of males, 2,284. What do we get? $2,284 times 0.4, 900 and, I can't see it, 914 if we round up. And they claim that that's how many people smoked. Is that close to the actual number of male smokers here? Well, it's not that far off, but it's not that close either. We're off by what? More than 300? 300 out of 1,200 is like a quarter. They're like 25% off. Okay, that's a pretty big margin of error. My boss paid me 25% less, I'd be pretty pissed. Okay. So is it reasonable? I guess not, right? Because it's off by 300 males. Actually, 300 male smokers. So I'm going to say I don't think that's reasonable. Not very reasonable. What's the reasonable? There we go. What's the actual percent of men who smoke? So there we would have to divide these two numbers. 54.9, and I think I have that in my spreadsheet too. Let's see, yeah, right there. Out of men, 54.99% of men, so 55%. They said 40%. So if this was the university saying this to the newspaper, they're understating the number of males who smoke. There's more people, more men that smoke at the university. So then I question who came up with that? What's their motive? Is it just a mistake, or are they trying to let people know, nah, there's not that many men who smoke? But they're wrong. All right. So let's see, what else can we get out of that? I don't know. Let's see what's next. Here we go. There it is. Nope, that's not it. There it is. All right. Men smokers make up what percent of the total student body? What's the denominator there? So we know how many male smokers there are. There's about 12,000 of them. So now I'm considering of the total student body, which number of my totals is that here? 2,200, the 1,700, the 3,800. Anybody wants to check? Aaron? Which number up there represents the total student body? Oops. I think it's the 3,800. Yeah, so if we take the 1,200 out of 3,800, that'll give us that percentage there. And I didn't calculate that one. That's not in my table. But I can put it in there. So percent all. Let's see. It's down here. Look at that. All right, so let's see. I want to zoom out a minute to do this. So I just want to rewrite these numbers here. So what I want to know is the equals, take the men and divide by that 3873. Now if I click on it and try to fill it around, that's going to cause a problem because all the cells are going to shift. So the easiest thing to do here is just type the 3873. That's bad form in spreadsheets, but I'm not quite ready to explain the difference. And so now I can just fill that formula around and it'll give me all the percentages. And just to double check, if I sum up all of those percentages, it should add up to 100%. Let's zoom back in on that. So I can break it down out of the total student body. I get a whole bunch of different percentages. So percentage of male smokers, that would be 32.43% overall at the school. Percentage of male non-smokers in the whole school, about 27% of the students are non-smoker males. About 13% of the school are females who smoke, and about 27% of the school are non-smoking females. So that's a breakdown by total student body. So there's all different kinds of questions you can answer based on breaking things down in two different ways. And here we're breaking things down by gender and smoking or not smoking. So do we want the denominator to be all students or just gender, men or women? Do we want it to be smokers or non-smokers? Same set of numbers, different percentages because we switch out the denominator depending on who we're comparing to. And anytime I hear percentages in the news, I'm always questioning, did they get that right? Did they use the right set of numbers to calculate that? Most of the time they do, but sometimes they get it backwards. All right, where are we at here? Okay, so World Health Organization. So I'm going to stop here, and we are going to try and answer these questions tomorrow. What I want to do now is I want to have people try and make a spreadsheet. And on the spreadsheet, you're going to do a couple of things. You're going to enter this table in right here into a spreadsheet. And then based on those numbers, you're going to calculate totals. So as far as my spreadsheets here, you're not going to do you don't have to do it as intricate as I did. But for sure, I want everyone to have this table. Let's see. This would be number 3 right here. So you're going to have this table for number 3, and then you're going to use that underneath to calculate percent of women who smoke, percentage of smokers who are women. Okay. And then you'll do another tab for number 4, where you'll have this table in there, and then underneath you'll have percentage of women who smoke, percentage of smokers who are women, and you use the numbers above to make the calculations. So what you'll have to do is type in the stuff that's not highlighted, and then you're going to use the sum formulas to come up with these other numbers so you can do your calculations. Okay? So go grab a computer in the other room. If you have one with you, just take that over. Did you already do it? Yep. Okay. So I can just take a look at yours. If you're done, you're done. Otherwise, you can work on other questions if you already did this part. And then Daisy, how are you feeling about doing this one on a spreadsheet?
Good.
Yeah? Okay. So you want to just give it a try, and then do you use Google or do you use Excel?
Google.
Use Google? Okay. So try it at Google and then share it with me. And the best address to share with is the one I email you from. Just a reminder, I'll write it down here. That's the pen. The G Parker. And you've shared stuff with me before, I'm pretty sure. So once you start typing it, it should just pop up at bmcconline.com. And have you started trying to make a spreadsheet yet?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
While we were doing it.
While we were doing it? Okay. And is it working okay for you?
Yeah.
No problems?
Nope.
Okay. So then feel free to sign out. Otherwise, I'll leave this connection open for a little while to see if you have any questions.
Okay.
All right. All right. Let's take a look at yours, Aaron. Do you pretty good with spreadsheets? Or?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with spreadsheets.
Okay. So you've got, so yeah. This was number 3. Okay, yeah, so it's the only thing, when I first did it, I wasn't clear about which percentage is which.
Mm-hmm.
So next to that, I would write women, percent of women who smoke, and the next one, percent of smokers who are women.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear
So just
about that.
label them.
Yeah, just label them a little more clearly.
Okay, I can do that.
And I mean, for mine, instead, what I wrote up here is my gender.
Yeah.
And down here, I wrote by smokers. So there's, just however you want to do it.
Okay.
But just so it's clear. So that can be either question 3 and then question 4. Just do the same exact thing.
Up to the other numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
And then you'll share it with me here. And then also you know how to submit a shareable link?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then in the box for that assignment, you should see a button up here that says submit, and then you can just enter your shareable link in the box.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna check on the other room.
Space left.